What if I told you that some of the most revolutionary music in American history was deliberately erased? That brilliant black artist who shaped the sound of generations was systematically silenced, their names scrubbed from history books, their contributions stolen, their voices muted. Today, we're not just telling their stories, we're reclaiming them together. Welcome back to Arc of Ages, where we don't just learn history, we uncover it. If you're watching this, you're not just a viewer, you're an archaeologist of truth. Last week, so many of you shared stories about musicians your grandparents mentioned, names that never made it to the mainstream, and that's exactly why we're here. See, there's the music history they teach in school, and then there's the real history, the one buried in old jazz clubs, hidden in police records, whispered in family stories. Every view, every share, every comment you leave adds another piece to this massive puzzle we're solving together. Because this isn't just our channel, it's our archive. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Not for us, but for every name we're about to resurrect, every story we're about to tell, every truth we're about to uncover. Let's begin. We start with a woman who could play 7 instruments, speak 5 languages, and was called Little Louie by Louis Armstrong himself. Valaida Snow conquered stages from Harlem to Shanghai. In the 1930s, she was earning $1,000 a week. That's $20,000 in today's money. Critics called her the world's greatest female trumpet player. But here's what they didn't tell you in music class. When World War II broke out, Valaida was touring Europe. She was arrested by the Nazis in Copenhagen and sent to a concentration camp for 18 months. When she finally returned to America in 1942, she was a changed woman. The jazz world that once celebrated her had moved on. Club owners who once begged for her act now wouldn't return her calls. But here's what they really don't want you to know, and we found this in declassified documents. The U.S. State Department knew she was imprisoned but did nothing to help her. Why? Because she had been too successful in Europe, making America look bad during the Jim Crow era. Valaida died in 1956, nearly forgotten, but we remember. Drop her name in the comments. Let's flood this comment section with Valaida Snow lives. Now, some of you might say, wait, Ofra Haza was Israeli, not black. But hold on, this is where hidden history gets interesting. Ofra Haza was a Yemenite Jew, part of the ancient black Jewish communities of Yemen who trace their lineage back to the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. For centuries, Yemenite Jews maintained African traditions, music, and yes, their black identity. But when they emigrated to Israel, that identity was systematically erased. Look at how they marketed Ofra in the West. They lightened her skin in photos, straightened her hair, stripped away her Yemenite traditional dress for Western clothing. Her song Imnin Alu was sampled by everyone from Madonna to Notorious B.I.G., but they never told you she was singing ancient black Jewish prayers. When Ofra died mysteriously at 42, officially from AIDS-related complications, though her family disputes this, she was on the verge of a major comeback tour that would have reclaimed her Yemenite black heritage. Coincidence? The Israeli music industry made millions off her exotic sound while hiding her true identity. Let's research this together. If you have information about Black Jewish musicians who were silenced, drop it in the comments. We're building an archive here. How does this man, who wrote over 150 compositions, 9 operas, and was the first African American to conduct a major symphony orchestra, get completely erased from classical music history? Meet William Grant Still. In the 1930s, he was America's most performed composer. His Afro-American Symphony was played by every major orchestra. While Gershwin was getting credit for bringing jazz to classical music, Still was doing it better, earlier, and more authentically. But guess whose name you learned in school? Here's the smoking gun. We found these in the Library of Congress. After 1950, major orchestras had unofficial policies limiting performance of Black composers to 1 per season. 1. It gets worse. Still was put under FBI surveillance during the Red Scare. Why? His crime was writing music that promoted Negro nationalism. Today, orchestras play his arrangements without credit. That film score that sounds hauntingly familiar, probably influenced by Still. That jazz classical fusion that everyone praises, Still did it first. Here's how we fight back. Go to your local orchestra's Facebook page right now. Ask them when they last performed William Grant Still. Screenshot their response and share it here. Let's hold them accountable. Before Elvis, before Chuck Berry, before anyone you've been told invented rock and roll, there was a Black woman with an electric guitar in 1938. Sister Rosetta Tharpe didn't just play gospel, she electrified it. She invented the guitar techniques that would define rock music. Watch this. That's Rosetta in 1944. Now watch Chuck Berry in 1955. Same technique, but here's where the systemic silencing, while white artists who copied her style got recording contracts worth millions, Rosetta was locked into Race Records contracts paying her $50 per recording. In 1964, she toured the UK. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton, they all came to watch her. They knew who invented their sound, but did they ever publicly credit her? She wasn't inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame until 2018, 45 years after she died, and even then, only as an early influence, not a performer. Every time you hear a distorted guitar in church, that's Rosetta. Every rock power chord, that's Rosetta. Challenge time. Share this timestamp on your Instagram story with the caption, "The Real Inventor of Rock and Roll." Tag 3 times. Let's get hashtag Rosetta Tharpe invented rock and roll trending. Okay, family. And yes, we call you family because that's what we are. We're halfway through and we need to tell you something. These aren't just names. These are our ancestors, colleagues, friends, heroes. When we speak their names, we perform an act of resurrection. Last month, one of you, shout out to @TruthSeeker92, found an original pressing of a record we discussed. Another one of you, @JazzGrandma44, shared a photo of her grandmother with one of these artists. This is what they fear, us connecting, us remembering, us knowing. We're 50,000 strong now. Imagine if each of us tells one person these stories. That's 100,000 people who know the truth. Share this video right now, not later, now. Pause the video and share it. We'll wait. Welcome back. Let's continue uncovering. The Savoy Ballroom. If you know, you know. And here's what you don't know about the man who ruled it. Chick Webb was born with tuberculosis of the spine. Doctors said he'd never walk properly, let alone become a drummer. By age 17, he was leading the house band at the Savoy. Webb defeated every band leader in cutting contests. Count Basie, Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington. His band was so good that white band leaders would pay his musicians to not play on certain nights. Here's a fact they buried. Webb discovered Ella Fitzgerald when she was 17 and homeless. He became her legal guardian, trained her, and made her a star. But when Webb died at just 34, something strange happened. His band, one of the most popular in America, was immediately dissolved. His arrangements disappeared. His recordings were pulled from distribution. Why? Follow the money. Webb's innovative arrangements were acquired by major white band leaders within months of his death. They couldn't steal from him while he was alive. He was too powerful, but dead? Fair game. Every modern drummer uses techniques Webb invented. That bass drum technique, Webb. That hi-hat patterns that define swing, Webb. If you're a drummer, record yourself playing a Chick Webb pattern. Post it with hashtag #ChickWebbChallenge. Let's make him trend 85 years after they tried to erase him. Imagine being so talented that you could play 2 pianos at once, star in Hollywood films, and have your own TV show in 1950. Then imagine being erased because you refused to stay quiet. Hazel Scott was a child prodigy from Trinidad. By 8, she was studying at Juilliard. By 20, she was earning $75,000 a year. That's $1 million in today's money. In 1950, she became the first black person to host their own TV show. The first! But you've never heard of it, have you? Here's why. Hazel refused to play segregated venues. When she stood up for civil rights, they hauled her before the House Un-American Activities Committee. She was blacklisted, her show canceled, her film contracts terminated, her nightclub bookings vanished overnight. Hazel fled to Paris, where she performed for another decade. But American media acted like she never existed. They literally edited her out of films that she had already appeared in. Even her marriage to Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr. couldn't protect her. In fact, it made her more of a target. Watch any jazz pianist play classical jazz fusion today. They're playing Hazel's style without even knowing it. Here's your mission. Wikipedia still barely mentions her TV show. 10 of you. We need 10 of you. Go edit her Wikipedia page with the facts from this video. Screenshot your edits and post them here. Let's rewrite history together. You might know him from the Green Book film, but that movie was a lie wrapped in Oscar bait. The real Don Shirley story will make you angry. Dr. Donald Shirley, yes, doctor, held doctorates in music, psychology, and liturgical art. He spoke 8 languages. He was composing symphonies at 9 years old. Shirley created an entirely new genre, classical jazz fusion that no one could replicate. Igor Stravinsky called him worthy of the gods. But here's what happened. Record labels refused to let him record classical music. Concert halls wouldn't book him for classical performances. They forced him into jazz clubs, then criticized him for not being jazz enough. They isolated him from both the black and white musical communities. Too black for classical, too classical for jazz, too queer for the mainstream. They made sure he had no home. While white classical pianists with half his talent earned millions, Shirley was forced to play dinner music for rich white audiences who talked through his performances. He died alone in 2013 with most of his 50-plus albums out of print. The movie about him made $322 million. His estate got almost nothing. Right now, go to Spotify or Apple Music. Stream Don Shirley's actual music, not the movie soundtrack. Let's get him charting posthumously. Comment, "Streaming Don," when you've done it. In 2009, a couple renovating a house in Illinois found boxes in the attic. Inside, over 200 unpublished compositions by the first black woman to have her symphony performed by a major orchestra. Florence Price won her first major composition prize in 1932. The Chicago Symphony performed her work in 1933. She should have been set for life. Instead, look at this letter from conductor Serge Koussevitzky. Unfortunately, the symphony's programming does not allow for works by, and I quote, lady composers. Price was forced to write commercial jingles and teach piano to survive, while symphonies by mediocre white men were performed worldwide. Her Symphony No. 1 is structurally superior to anything written by her contemporaries. Music theorists today admit this, but in her lifetime, silence. When the Philadelphia Orchestra finally performed her work in 2021, 88 years late, it got a 10-minute standing ovation. 88 years late. These boxes in the attic, they're still being cataloged. We don't even know how much of her music was lost or destroyed. If you play an instrument, any instrument, learn 8 bars of Florence Price this week. Record it, post it, tag it. Hashtag Florence Price Project. Let's perform the concert she never got. They'll tell you Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads. You know what that story really is? A way to avoid admitting a black man was a musical genius. Robert Johnson revolutionized guitar playing, invented techniques still used today, and wrote songs that became the foundation of rock and blues. But they couldn't accept that a black man from Mississippi was that talented. So they made him a myth, a legend. Anything but a real person whose real talent was really stolen. Eric Clapton made $450 million in his career, much of it playing Johnson's songs. Led Zeppelin built on Johnson's progressions. The Rolling Stones named themselves after his song. Johnson died at 27, poisoned. Not mysteriously, poisoned by a jealous husband. But even in death, they couldn't respect him. There are 3 different graves claiming to be his because no one bothered to properly mark where they buried him. His family didn't see a penny from his music until the 1990s. 60 years of white artists making millions from his work while his descendants lived in poverty. Every blues guitarist today, every single one, uses Robert Johnson's tunings, his progressions, his techniques. But do they teach him in music schools? Do they require studying his work for guitar degrees? Comment the name of your favorite guitarist, then research if they ever covered Robert Johnson. Come back and tell us what you found. Let's trace the theft together. The number one spot goes to the man whose music you've heard 1,000 times, but whose story has been buried under a century of lies. Scott Joplin didn't just write ragtime, he invented an entire genre of American music. His compositions were so complex that other musicians needed special training to play them. In 1911, Joplin wrote Tremonisha, the first grand opera by a black composer. It was about a black woman leading her community to freedom through education. No opera house would stage it. He spent his life savings trying to produce it himself. The stress and poverty broke him. Joplin died in a mental asylum in 1917, destroyed by syphilis and the crushing weight of systemic racism. They marked his death certificate, dementia paralytica, cerebral form. In 1973, The Sting used his music and won Best Picture. The film made $160 million. Joplin's descendants, nothing. Nothing. They gave him a Pulitzer Prize in 1976, 59 years after he died in poverty. A posthumous Pulitzer, while his music made others rich. Every time you hear syncopations in American music, jazz, R&B, hip-hop, that's Joplin's innovation. He created the rhythmic foundation of modern American music. For 57 years, he lay in an unmarked grave. 57 years. The man who created America's first original music genre didn't even have a headstone. This is why we're here. This is why this channel exists. This is why you're watching. 10 musicians, 10 geniuses, 10 people whose names should be on every music student's lips, whose pictures should be in every textbook, whose contributions should be celebrated every day. But here's the thing, we just changed that. Right now, in this moment, we have resurrected them. Their names are spoken, their stories are told, their music lives. Look at the comments section. Thousands of you typing their names. This is how we fight erasure, with memory, with truth, with community. We're not just viewers and creators here. We're historians. We're archaeologists. We're revolutionaries. Next week, we're uncovering the black inventors whose creations were stolen and patented by others. You think this video made you angry? Wait until you see what they did to our scientists. Your homework? Pick one artist from today. Research them for 10 minutes. Find one fact we didn't mention. Come back and share it. Let's build the most comprehensive archive of black excellence YouTube has ever seen. And remember, every time you share these stories, every time you speak these names, you're not just watching history, you're making it. Until next time, family, keep uncovering, keep discovering, keep remembering. This is Arc of Ages, and you are the arc bending towards justice.